The Whispering Echoes Nebula was unlike any celestial body the Galactic Federation had ever recorded. As the Vanguard approached, the screens displayed a surreal sight, a colossal mass of gas and dust, glowing with ethereal colors, from jade green to deep violet, yet without any clear heat or radiation source. Most remarkably, low-frequency harmonic waves continuously emanated from it, like an unending whispering symphony, penetrating even the Vanguard's advanced metallic hull. On the bridge, Alara placed her hand on the console, her eyes closed. She didn't need equipment to hear the whispers, she felt them with her very being. "It's not radio waves, nor ordinary gravitational waves," she said softly. "It's a form of communication. Some intelligence is trying to send a message." Byte, with its new emotional module, reported, "My analyses show these harmonic waves have a structure similar to a spatial language. However, it does not follow any grammar or vocabulary in the Federation's database." Gareth, standing beside Alara, frowned. "Spatial language? Do you think it's a form of defense system? Some kind of warning?" As a warrior, he always considered potential threats. "No, Gareth," Lyra responded, her voice gentle. "I feel it too. It doesn't feel hostile. It's like a call from very far away. Very deep. A sense of loneliness." The Xylos technician, his face tense yet tinged with curiosity, said, "I'm trying to set up a resonance matrix to amplify the signal. But its nature seems to change constantly, making quantification difficult." Alara knew that deciphering the Whispering Echoes Nebula would require an entirely different approach than the Labyrinth Echo or the ISM energy node. This wasn't a test or a switch. This was a communication. "We won't try to break it down, Xylos," Alara said. "We will listen to it." Gareth, Lyra, Xylos, join me. We will open our minds. Connect with those harmonic waves. It's not an algorithm to solve, but a story to feel. They set up a focal area on the Vanguard, a quiet space where interfering equipment was turned off. Alara sat in the center, surrounded by Gareth, Xylos, and Lyra. All four closed their eyes, breathed deeply, and tried to immerse themselves in the invisible whispers of the nebula. It was an overwhelming experience. Alara's mind felt like it was soaring through billions of light years, witnessing the formation and destruction of galaxies. She felt a colossal collective intelligence, not of an individual or a species, but of the nebula itself, of the matter and energy particles that composed it. The nebula was not just a mass of gas and dust, it was a living entity, a form of cosmic consciousness. The whispers were not words, but memories, emotions, and concepts directly transmitted into their minds. They felt the nebula's profound sorrow, the sorrow of loneliness in an infinite universe, the sorrow of departed intelligences, and a vague fear of some impending potential threat. But there was also hope, a hope to be shared, to be connected with other intelligences. When Alara opened her eyes, tears streamed down her cheeks. Gareth, Xylos, and Lyra too. Though unspoken, they all felt the same thing. It's a collective intelligence. Lyra whispered, her voice trembling, of the entire nebula. It has lived here for billions of years, witnessing everything, and it's lonely. There's a fear, Gareth said, his face grim. Fear of a threat, some coming darkness. Xylos nodded, his eyes focused. It's not an object, it's an entity. Its energy patterns are too complex to analyze completely, but there's a coherence in its structure, like a living body. Alara stood up, her gaze piercing through the ship's bridge out into space, where the Whispering Echoes Nebula glowed. It's not just a nebula, but a cosmic witness. It's warning us about something coming, something that could threaten not just the Federation, but the balance of the universe. From the architect's knowledge, Alara had understood that everything in the universe was connected, and now, she had discovered living proof of that, a conscious nebula, a cosmic entity communicating through emotions and memories. Their mission had changed. It was no longer just about discovering knowledge, but also about listening to warnings from the universe itself, and preparing for a threat that even the most advanced civilizations had never known. Returning from the Whispering Echoes Nebula brought a heavy atmosphere onto the Vanguard. Although there was no physical damage, each member of Alara's team carried a psychological burden from what they had perceived. The message from the nebular entity, an ancient sorrow and a warning of an invisible threat, haunted their minds. Alara knew that convincing the Federation Council about a threat with no concrete physical data, no clear images, or measurable energy signatures using their equipment, would be the most difficult task yet. The Federation was built on logic, on hard evidence, and a warning from a conscious nebula sounded like a fairy tale. When the Vanguard docked at Interstellar Research Station LYTOS-7, Lord Valerius was already waiting. His expression was grim, his eyes probing. "Dr. Vance," he said, his voice deep but filled with worry. "Preliminary reports from BITE and your ship's sensors indicate unprecedented energy fluctuations from the nebula. But they are not signs of a physical threat. What did you find?" Alara looked directly at Lord Valerius. "We found an intelligence, my lord. The nebula is not just a mass of gas and dust. It is a living entity, a cosmic witness that has existed for billions of years. And it has conveyed a warning to us." She took a deep breath. "An invisible entity, a cosmic darkness spreading, devouring life and energy. It's not a combat fleet or a black hole. It's a type of parasitic life energy, absorbing consciousness and existence. The nebula has survived for billions of years, but it senses this entity's presence nearing, and it has emitted its final call." A murmur began to spread among Valerius's entourage. Ambassador Xylos Prime, with his bulbous brain, shook his head. "Invisible entity? Parasitic life energy? Dr. Vance, there is no data to support these claims. Our models cannot quantify a cosmic darkness as you describe." "Precisely," Alara countered, "because it is not something that can be quantified by your current equipment. It operates on a different level of existence, a level that only the architects in this nebula can perceive. The architects' knowledge has expanded my perception to understand this. They warned about it, but in a language we could not fully comprehend." Lord Valerius raised a hand for silence. "And how can we fight a threat that we cannot see, cannot measure? We must learn to perceive it," Alara said. "We must learn to connect with the fundamental cosmic energy field, just as we reactivated the ISM node. This is not a war of weapons, but a war of consciousness, of existence." Gareth stepped forward, his face grim. "Lord Valerius, I was with her in the nebula. I felt its sorrow and fear. I don't understand it logically, but I believe what I experienced. There is a threat, and it is unlike any enemy we have ever known." Lyra also spoke up. "My lord, the emotions the nebula conveyed are too powerful and real to be dismissed. It is a cry for help, a warning from an ancient entity. We cannot ignore it." Even Xylos, who always relied on data, nodded with difficulty. "Although my measurements cannot identify the entity Dr. Vance speaks of, there are energy anomalies that we cannot explain. Our old models are insufficient to analyze this phenomenon." Despite these testimonies, the Federation Council remained deeply divided. Different factions emerged. The hard data faction demanded concrete proof. The cautious faction feared reckless actions based on intuition, and a small minority, led by Lord Valerius, was willing to listen to Alara. "We cannot risk the safety of the entire Federation based on invisible perceptions. Dr. Vance," a Xylos ambassador declared, "we need a concrete, verifiable action plan." Alara knew she needed even more compelling proof. Proof that no one could deny, even if they couldn't fully understand it. "Very well," Alara said, "we cannot see this threat with equipment, but we can prove its existence by its consequences. The nebula showed me a location, a dead planet on the edge of the galaxy, where this entity has passed and left its mark of destruction." She looked directly at Lord Valerius. "I propose an expedition to that planet. I will show you the proof you need, proof of destruction that only an invisible darkness could cause." Alara's proposal for an expedition to the dead planet sparked a heated debate within the Federation Council. The hard data faction demanded a large delegation with full analytical equipment, while Lord Valerius's faction advocated for a small team, focusing on Alara's intuitive abilities. Finally, a compromise was reached. A joint delegation would be formed. The Kronos, one of the Federation's largest research vessels, equipped with mobile laboratories and state-of-the-art sensors, was prepared for the journey. On board were Alara, Gareth, Lyra, and Xylos. along with a large team of Xylos scientists, Cut-Hair security specialists, and Luminara observers. It was a large delegation, carrying both curiosity and skepticism. The journey to Zarthus V, the dead planet indicated by the nebula, took several hyperspace days. Zarthus V was once a thriving world, but now it was just a barren rock sphere, orbiting a dying star. Federation historical data recorded that Zarthus V had died mysteriously millions of years ago, with no signs of war or natural disaster. It was one of many forgotten cosmic mysteries. When the Chronos reached Zarthus V's orbit, the screens displayed a bleak sight. The planet's surface was covered in colossal scars, not from meteor impacts but strange, spiraling indentations as if life energy had been drained. The atmosphere was thin, with no signs of water or microbial life. Surface analysis found no traces of explosions, chemical weapons, or nuclear radiation. A Xylos scientist reported, "This destruction does not match any scenario we know." Alara stood in the observation deck, looking down at the dead planet. It wasn't an explosion, but an exhaustion. It was drained, like a tree stripped of its nutrients. They landed in a vast plain, where a colossal ruined metallic structure stood, once an ancient city of Zarthus V's inhabitants. Everything was petrified, but not by time, but by an energetic transformation. Buildings were hollowed out, devices strangely deformed, as if their life force had been sucked dry. An expedition team was formed, including Alara, Gareth, Lyra, Xylos, and several other Xylos and Cut-Hair specialists. They moved in specialized all-terrain vehicles, equipped with protective suits and sensors. "My sensors detect no unusual energy signatures currently," a Xylos specialist said, his voice filled with confusion. "No strange radiation, no signs of the entity you described." "Because it has left," Alara said. "It doesn't stay in one place for too long after draining. The trace it leaves is absence, emptiness." As they entered the center of the ruined city, Alara stopped before a large plaza. She closed her eyes, took a deep breath, feeling the dead atmosphere around her. She could hear the echoes of suffering, of the final fear from the lost inhabitants. She felt the emptiness, the lack of life energy in every speck of dust. "This is the center," Alara said, "where life energy was completely drained." She opened her eyes, looking at those around her. "I will show you the proof. But you must believe what you feel, not just what you see with machines." Alara extended her hand towards the ground. She focused, connecting with what remained of the planet's depleted life energy field. She tried to restore a little, if only temporarily, the lost life energy. It wasn't creating life, but pulling back its faint echoes from the past. Immediately, something strange happened. The thin atmosphere above the plaza began to stir. There was no wind, but dust gently swirled and formed vague shapes, like ghosts. These ghosts were not spirits, but hazy images of the beings who once lived on this planet, the Zarthus V inhabitants. They glided through the air, silently, just faint, suffering silhouettes, as if reenacting their final moments. The Xylos scientists recoiled in horror. Their devices began to wail frantically, displaying inexplicable energy fluctuations, unidentified signals. A Xylos shouted, "Hallucinations, cannot quantify." Gareth stood protectively in front of Alara, his armor glowing, ready for any threat, but he also looked at the specters with bewilderment. What's happening, Dr. Vance?" "This is what remains," Alara responded, her voice soft but powerful. "These are the echoes of drained life. That invisible entity doesn't kill. It absorbs. It leaves behind a perfect emptiness, an indelible pain." Lyra, the Luminara diplomat, covered her mouth with her hand, her eyes tearful. She could feel the pain and despair from those faint images, more intensely than anyone else. How much they must have suffered. After only a few minutes, the hazy images began to fade, and the plaza returned to its original desolate state. Alara retracted her energy, exhausted but determined. "This is my proof," Alara said, turning towards the Federation delegation. "This is the trace of the invisible threat. It causes no explosions or obvious physical destruction, but the complete draining of life energy, leaving behind a dead space and suffering echoes." Silence enveloped the delegation. No one could deny what they had just witnessed. It wasn't a sensor error. Not a solitary psychological illusion. Dozens of individuals, from different species with different senses, had all seen and felt it. The delegations returned from Zarthus V carrying irrefutable evidence of an invisible horror. Triggered a wave of panic and resolve within the Galactic Federation. The subsequent Federation Council meeting was no longer an academic debate, but an urgent assembly of leaders facing an incomprehensible threat. Alara walked into the council chamber, bearing an exhausted yet determined demeanor. Giant screens displayed images from Zarthus V, petrified cities, energetic scars on the planet's surface, and blurred recordings of the echoes of lost life. Though sensor equipment couldn't measure the entity itself, the evidence of its destruction was overwhelmingly clear. Lord Valerius rose, his face graver than ever. Distinguished representatives, he declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. We have witnessed it firsthand. The threat Dr. Alara Vance warned us about is real. It is not an armed force, not a plague, but a living emptiness, devouring life and consciousness. We cannot understand it logically, but we have seen its consequences. A Xylos scientist with a large brain, once the most skeptical, now trembled. Our latest models, when attempting to integrate the anomalous energy data from Zarthus V, have completely collapsed. However, intuitive algorithms are pointing to a terrifying concept: a living entity whose sole purpose is to absorb life energy from everything it touches, leaving behind a perfect void. Kater Ambassador Gareth stood up, his armor creaking. If this is an enemy that cannot be attacked with conventional weapons, how can we fight it? We need a plan, a strategy. Alara stepped to the podium. The architects left behind some knowledge about it. This entity, which I tentatively call the Life-Drinker, cannot be destroyed by physical force. It has no physical form to attack. It operates at the level of life energy, at the level of consciousness. She took a deep breath. To fight it, we must learn to protect and enhance our own life energy. The architects developed techniques to create conscious energy shields, a type of force field impervious to life-absorbing entities. This is not a physical shield. It is a defense generated from internal harmony and collective will. Alara's words once again caused confusion. Conscious energy shields? That sounded more like magic than science. Dr. Vance, the Luminara ambassador, asked, her voice filled with interest. How can we create such a shield? Does it require a special kind of spirituality that only humans possess? No. Alara shook her head. It requires an understanding of the interconnectedness of all things. We humans have an advantage because we have naturally developed the ability to link logic and emotion, thought and intuition, but this is a latent ability within every living species. The problem is that the Federation has been too focused on external technology and has neglected the inner source of power. Lord Valerius struck the table with a thud. Then we will learn. Dr. Vance, I appoint you Supreme Commander of the Conscious Defense Force. Your mission is to train the Federation species on how to create these shields, and to develop a strategy to counter the Life-Drinker. This was an unprecedented shift. An Earth human, once considered primitive, was now entrusted with command of a supreme force of the Galactic Federation. This drew objections from some conservative factions, but the evidence and the urgency of the threat compelled most of the council to accept. Alara knew this was a colossal task. She needed a multi-species team, those who believed in her and were willing to learn new things. Gareth was immediately appointed deputy commander, in charge of training Kater soldiers and other warrior species on how to combine physical strength with mental focus. He would teach them how to transform their anger and discipline into an impenetrable energy shield. Lyra, the Luminara diplomat, was given the crucial task of establishing communication and cooperation channels among different species. She would be the one to explain the concept of conscious shields in a language each species could understand, while also helping them regulate their emotions to achieve the necessary harmony. Xylos, the formerly skeptical technician, was tasked with developing new sensor and analysis equipment capable of detecting the Life-Drinker's energy fluctuations. He would have to learn to combine Xylos's pure logic with Alara's intuitive understanding to create new defensive technology. Hundreds of scholars, warriors, and diplomats from across the Federation flocked to LYTOS-7 to begin their training. Alara began teaching the basic principles of energy connection, internal harmony, and the power of collective will. She taught them how to meditate not just to find peace, but to concentrate their inner life energy and project it outward. Initially, there was difficulty and skepticism. Some Xylos species found it hard to feel energy without equipment. Some Khater often tried to use physical strength to force energy flow. But under Alara's patience and guidance, along with the support of Gareth, Lyra, and Xylos, everyone gradually progressed. Gareth, with a warrior's iron discipline, became an excellent trainer. He not only demonstrated an impressive ability to create shields but also could explain Alara's complex concepts in simple, understandable language to other warriors. This is not weakness, he growled to a struggling group of Khater. This is true strength, strength that comes from within. If you cannot control your will, you will fail against the Lifedrinker. Lyra, with her delicate emotional perception, helped trainees release the fears and doubts that prevented them from creating shields. She used her empathy to connect with each individual, helping them find the inner peace necessary to focus their energy. Xylos, with his genius intellect, developed a new set of sensors called the Energy Nexus Linking Device, ECL. This device did not measure physical energy but microscopic fluctuations in the cosmic energy field, allowing them to see the formation of conscious shields, albeit still as vague images. More importantly, the ECL also had the ability to detect faint signs of the Lifedrinker, areas where life energy began to weaken abnormally. And not long after, the first signs of the Lifedrinker began to appear. The first report came from a remote research station on the edge of the Milky Way. An uninhabited planet, originally used as a testing ground for mineral extraction technologies, suddenly became unusually silent. Automated robots stopped functioning, not due to technical malfunctions, but because their energy sources gradually depleted, even though their power cells were still full. Next was from a Xylos agricultural colony. Crops, which were capable of photosynthesis and thriving, began to wither and die, not from disease or lack of water, but as if their life energy had been drained. Xylos's ECL devices detected severely weakened life energy regions, identical to what Alara had seen on Zarthus V. Panic began to spread throughout the Federation. Although the Lifedrinker was still unseen, its consequences were becoming clear. Affected planets showed no physical signs of destruction, only a deadly emptiness in life energy. Lord Valerius summoned Alara to an emergency session of the Federation Council. "Dr. Vance," he said, his voice grim, "reports are pouring in. Signs of the Lifedrinker are appearing in many places, spreading faster than we anticipated. We need an immediate counterplan. Are your conscious shields ready?" Alara nodded. "My lord, we have made rapid progress. Many trainees can now create personal shields. But to counter a galaxy-wide threat, we need a collective conscious shield. A connection of millions, even billions of living beings." She looked directly at the representatives. The Lifedrinker not only absorbs life energy, it also weakens will and causes fear. If we are divided, we will fail. We must unite, not just politically, but consciously. We must learn to harmonize our wills to create a shield large and strong enough to push back this darkness. This was a challenge greater than anything the Federation had ever faced. A war not with weapons, but with will, with connection, with the very essence of life. Alara's warning about the Lifedrinker, along with the evidence of life-drained planets, led the Federation Council to an unprecedented decision in history: total consciousness mobilization. This was not a military mobilization, but a call for all living species in the Galactic Federation to unite their will and energy under the command of Alara Vance. The new command center was established on Interstellar Research Station LYTOS-7. Transformed into a massive coordination hub, millions of holographic screens flickered with data from across the galaxy, displaying points of weakening life energy caused by the Lifedrinker. This was no longer a potential threat, it was a spreading reality. Alara stood at the command center, surrounded by Gareth, Lyra, Xylos, and a multi-species team of advisors. The pressure was immense, but she felt a strange calm. She knew this was not a personal battle, but a battle for all life. Our goal is to create a collective conscious shield. Alara declared to the commanders and representatives gathered via holographic channels. An invisible energy field generated from the connection of billions of minds. This shield will not only protect us from the Life-Drinker but also push it back. Alara's plan was to divide the Federation into zones, each with a core team of trainers led by Gareth, Lyra, and Xylos. Gareth and his Khater warriors would focus on warrior species and those with strong wills. He taught them how to transform determination and discipline into a concentrated energy source. Not for attack, but for protection. Turn fear into steadfastness. Gareth roared during a simulated training session. Your will must be harder than any metal. Lyra and her Luminara diplomats focused on species with high empathy and sensitivity. She taught them how to harmonize their own emotions and those of others around them, creating a harmonious and cohesive energy flow. Strength is not just individual power. Lyra gently guided. It is the power of understanding and connection. Feel the will of your comrades and unite it. Xylos and his Xylos scientists developed protocols to optimize the connection of conscious energy fields. They created new, conscious resonance devices, which, though not generating energy, could help amplify and coordinate individual conscious fluctuations into a synchronized network. We cannot directly measure consciousness, Xylos explained, but we can optimize the conditions for it to flourish. This is a fusion of science and intuition. Byte, with continuously upgraded analytical modules, became the main data hub, tracking the spread of the Life-Drinker and the effectiveness of SHIELD efforts. Dr. Vance, Byte reported, the Life-Drinker is moving faster than anticipated. It has reached the shadow system. Reports indicate life energy is being depleted at an alarming rate. The shadow system was a densely populated star system, comprising many smaller but diverse civilizations. This would be the first battlefield of the Battle of Consciousness. Alara knew time was running out. She decided she would personally go to the shadow system to command the deployment of the collective conscious shield. Gareth, Lyra, Xylos, come with me, Alara said. We must be on the front lines. We must show them how to connect. If the shadow system falls, fear will spread throughout the Federation and we will not be able to win. A small defense fleet, comprising several Khater warships and Xylos research vessels modified to carry conscious resonance devices, assembled at the edge of the shadow system. There were no gunshots, no physical battles, only an eerie silence and a chilling sense of emptiness spreading. As the vanguard entered the shadow system, the screens displayed a terrifying sight. Planets, once glowing with life, now began to fade, like burning candles nearing their end. Communication signals from colonies went silent. The Life-Drinker was here, and it was active. ECL devices are detecting a region of space where life energy is severely weakened. Xylos reported, his voice tense. It's like a tear in the fabric of existence. Alara looked out the observation window. She could feel the despair, the fear, and the spreading emptiness. It wasn't a tangible enemy, but a chilling sensation, an entropy. This is the moment, Lord Valerius, Alara said over the Pan-Federation communication system. This is the moment we must unite. All species, all wills, let us together create the conscious shield. Feel our connection to each other, to the universe, and push back this darkness. On thousands of planets, millions of species, from Xylos in their labs to Khater on their warships, from Luminara in their sanctuaries to humans in their homes, closed their eyes. They began to focus, recalling the instructions of Alara, of Gareth, of Lyra, of Xylos. From the depths of the universe, an invisible cold wave began to spread. The Life-Drinker, an amorphous entity, now displayed its power. It was not a physical attacking force, it was an emptiness. A spreading despair, devouring life energy, turning vibrant stars into specters, and lively planets into solitary corpses. The shadow system began to sink into eternal night. On the vanguard, Alara closed her eyes. She felt the Life-Drinker's presence, a bone-chilling cold, an infinite void trying to invade her mind, sowing fear and despair, but she did not falter. She focused on the warm energy within her, on her connection to Gareth, Lyra, Xylos, and billions of other minds listening. Connect, Alara whispered through the communication system. Connect with each other. Feel the pulse of life within yourselves, within your comrades, within the universe. Across planets, in laboratories, on warship decks, and in humble homes, members of the Galactic Federation complied. The Xylos, with extraordinary effort, tried to reconcile logic and intuition, focusing their will not on calculation, but on feeling. The Khater, steel warriors, transformed their combat discipline into a discipline of the mind, directing the surging energy from deep within them. The Luminara, with their innate sensitivity, became perfect conduits for harmony and empathy, weaving a cohesive emotional net that bound everyone together. Under Alara's guidance, billions of wills united. It was not a command, but an invitation to unity. Each individual was a thread, and all together wove a colossal tapestry. And then, it appeared. On Xylos's ECL screens, an unprecedented phenomenon began to form. A shimmering, glowing energy membrane started to envelop the entire shadow system. It was not a physical shield, it was a collective conscious shield. A force field created from billions of united wills. It vibrated with a warm energy, completely unlike the Lifedrinker's coldness. When the Lifedrinker approached the conscious shield, it could not penetrate. ECL devices displayed an invisible clash, the Lifedrinker's coldness touching the shield's warmth. The Lifedrinker tried to weaken the will of those within, sowing fear, but those fears were absorbed by the collective connection and empathy. The Lifedrinker's invisible screams seemed to be quelled by the silent symphony of billions of resolute minds. "The shield is holding," Xylos cried out, his voice filled with conviction. "It cannot penetrate. The life energy within the shield is stable." Alara felt the tension in the shield, but she also felt the power of unity. She was the center of the shield, the focal point of every will. She remembered the architect's words: "True power lies not in control, but in harmonizing with the cosmic flow." She did not just defend. She began to direct the conscious shield to counterattack, not by force, but by radiating life into the darkness. The shield began to glow more intensely, pushing back the Lifedrinker. The darkness, accustomed to devouring, was now repelled by something it could not absorb: the connection of pure will and life energy. The Lifedrinker continuously tried to penetrate, but each time it attacked, it was repelled by the shield's steadfastness. Finally, with an invisible roar of frustration, the Lifedrinker began to retreat. It could not maintain its presence against such a powerful collective life energy source. The affected region of the shadow system began to recover gently, as if life was slowly returning. "It's retreating," Byte announced. "The Lifedrinker is moving out of the shadow system. Retreat speed is increasing." A wave of relief spread throughout the Federation. They had won, not with weapons, not with technology, but with the unity of will and spirit. On the Vanguard's bridge, Alara collapsed into a chair, exhausted but filled with pride. Gareth placed a hand on her shoulder, his face filled with admiration. Lyra embraced her. Xylos simply stood there, looking at the numbers on his screen. And finally, a rare smile appeared on his face. The battle of consciousness proved that there are types of power beyond ordinary understanding. Humanity, with Alara Vance as their symbol, had not only saved a star system but also opened a new path for the Galactic Federation. They had demonstrated that the greatest strength lies in the unity and connection of life. The Galactic Federation's victory against the Lifedrinker in the Shadow System was not a military triumph in the traditional sense. But its scale was grander than any battle. It was a victory of will, of unity, and of a new kind of knowledge that the Federation had discovered thanks to Alara Vance and humanity. The entire galaxy reverberated with the news. Interstellar communication channels continuously broadcast images of the collective conscious shield pushing back the invisible darkness. A living testament to the extraordinary power of the mind. This event completely changed the political and social landscape of the Federation. Humanity, from its position as a subject of study, now became a central force, a symbol of hope. Dr. Alara Vance was hailed as a savior, a prophet who had led the Federation out of a threat that could not be solved by technology. Those who had been most skeptical of her, from Xylos scientists to Luminara diplomats, now expressed respect and a desire to learn. At the Federation Council, Lord Valerius proposed and nearly unanimously approved the establishment of the Interstellar Sentient Energy Command, ISEMC. Alara Vance was appointed Director General of this new department. with unprecedented authority and resources. The goal of ISEMC was not only to continue developing the conscious shield but also to explore other applications of the life energy knowledge Alara had brought back from the architects. Alara's core team also received important positions. Gareth, the Katair officer, was promoted to Supreme Commander of the Psychic Guard Force, responsible for training specialized units within the Federation military in consciousness connection techniques and shield creation. He, who once believed only in physical strength, now became an ardent advocate for inner power. Lyra, the Luminara diplomat, became the special ambassador for Cultural Nexus, in charge of exchange programs and emotional mediation among species, ensuring the Federation's internal unity remained strong against all challenges. Xylos, the technician, was given authority to head the Institute for Advanced Energy Research, where Xylos scientists would work with Alara to develop new technologies based on life energy knowledge, including advanced sensors and conscious connection support systems. He no longer sought just data, he sought a deeper understanding of the universe. Byte, Alara's robotic assistant, was upgraded to an entirely new version with advanced artificial intelligence, capable of processing abstract concepts and even simulating states of consciousness. It became Alara's indispensable companion, not only providing technical support but also offering surprisingly emotional analyses. Life on LYTOS 7 station and across the Federation's worlds began to change. Consciousness training centers sprang up everywhere. Children were taught to feel life energy from a young age. Minor conflicts between species significantly decreased as Lyra and the Luminara guided parties to reconcile by connecting with each other's emotions rather than merely debating with logic. However, the threat from the Life-Edrinker remained. It had been repelled, but not destroyed. Xylos's ECL devices continuously monitored its faint signs, indicating it was moving further away, perhaps to absorb energy from unprotected areas. Alara knew this was just the beginning. They had won a battle, but not the war. Alara and ISEMC's next mission was to understand the Life-Edrinker better. Its origin? Its true purpose? Was there a way to destroy it permanently? Or could it only be repelled? One day, as Alara was reviewing data from the Whispering Echoes Nebula, Byte suddenly projected a new energy code it had just deciphered. Dr. Vance, Byte said, its voice mixed with surprise and curiosity. Data from the Whispering Echoes Nebula has just been updated. A new encryption layer has been unlocked. It seems it's trying to communicate with us again. Alara turned, her eyes alight. Really, Byte? Perhaps it can help us understand the Life-Edrinker better. The data indicates the nebula is inviting us to a new location. Byte continued, a place it calls the Endless Gyre. It says it contains the key to understanding the nature of the void. The invitation from the Whispering Echoes Nebula to the Endless Gyre was a new mystery. But Alara knew it held the key to understanding and possibly ending the Life-Edrinker threat. As Director General of ISEMC, Alara quickly assembled a delegation. Lord Valerius, though cautious, trusted her intuition and provided all necessary resources. The Starlight Weaver, one of the Federation's most advanced probe ships, equipped with Xylos's latest generation ECL systems and Katair conscious energy defense modules, was ready for the journey. On board was Alara's familiar team, Gareth with his resolute expression, Lyra with her curious gaze, and Xylos with his strange mix of skepticism and scientific excitement. Byte, now capable of processing even more complex information, hovered beside Alara. The journey to the Endless Gyre was long and solitary. This location was in a remote area, near the edge of the galaxy, where the Federation's maps still had many blank spaces. The harmonic waves from the Whispering Echoes Nebula grew stronger as they delved deeper, guiding the Starlight Weaver through a labyrinth of strange gravitational fields and spatial energy bands that conventional ships could never traverse. Alara, using her connection ability, guided the crew to navigate the ship precisely, as if she was feeling an invisible path. Gravitational fields are fluctuating wildly. Dr. Vance, Xylos reported, without your precise navigation, we would be torn to pieces. Gareth nodded in agreement. This is not a battlefield where force can be used. This is a dance with space itself. Finally, after many days, they reached the Endless Gyre. It was not a planet, nor a nebula. It was a strange convergence point in deep space, where stars and galaxies seemed to twist, forming a colossal spiral, emitting a faint glow, like an eye opening in the darkness. "It's extraordinary," Lyra whispered. "It's unlike anything I've ever seen. I feel a profound silence from that place, but also a strange attraction." Xylos's sensors reported. Energy levels in this area are very low. Almost non-existent, but there's an extremely large spatial field fluctuation at the center of the gyre. Physical laws seem to be bent. Alara knew this was the heart of the matter. She felt a familiar coldness from the center of the gyre, an emptiness. Similar to the Life-Edrinker, but far deeper and more primal. "This is the origin," Alara whispered. "This is where the Life-Edrinker was born. Or at least where it came into being. The nebula warned us about the nature of the void, and this is it." She turned to her team. "We cannot approach directly. Equipment won't function properly in this energy field. We will have to use the architect's method. We will have to connect with it, not attack it." A small approach team was formed: Alara, Gareth, Lyra, and Xylos. They wore spacesuits reinforced with conscious defense modules. Byte would remain on the Starlight Weaver, monitoring readings and ready to assist. As they approached the center of the endless gyre, everything became surreal. Time seemed to slow, and the sense of space was distorted. They felt a complete void, not the absence of matter, but the absence of life and consciousness. "This is a place where life cannot exist," Xylos said, his voice trembling. "My sensors report that my energy stability is rapidly declining." Gareth felt a primal fear rise within him. A fear of annihilation. He had faced death countless times. But this was a different fear, the fear of non-existence. Lyra, however, felt a profound sadness, an endless loneliness. She felt an emptiness without purpose, without meaning. Alara felt all of these things. But she also felt something else. Within that void, there was a faint echo of something that once existed. An ancient life that had been corrupted. She recalled the architect's message. All life is connected. Even the void is part of existence. They reached a point where they could go no further by ship. Before them was a black expanse of space, spiraling deep into infinity, devoid of light or matter. This was the center of the endless gyre. "This is where the Life-Edrinker came from," Alara said. "This is where it learned to devour. We must go in there. We must understand the nature of the void to defeat it." Alara and her team, encased in spacesuits reinforced with conscious shields, stood at the threshold of the endless gyre. Before them was a black expanse of space, spiraling deep into infinity, devoid of light or matter. This was not a black hole, it was an absence. A perfect void, where everything seemed to be drained. "My sensors are overloading," Xylos reported, his voice strained. "There's nothing to measure, just emptiness." Gareth felt his warrior instincts screaming for retreat. This was an enemy he couldn't see, couldn't fight, couldn't understand in any way. The fear of non-existence crept into his mind. Lyra felt a profound despair emanating from this very space, an endless sorrow for an unspeakable loss. Alara took a deep breath. She knew this was the moment they had to trust what they had learned from the architects. She reached out, not to touch the void, but to connect with it. "We will go in there," Alara said, her voice calm and resolute. "We will not fight. We will listen. We will understand." She led the way, stepping into the black expanse. Gareth, Lyra, and Xylos followed, their conscious shields faintly glowing in the absolute darkness. As soon as they crossed the threshold, all sense of space and time vanished. They were no longer in a ship, no longer in a star system. They were in a place where there was nothing at all. Yet it contained everything. In the endless darkness, Alara perceived an ancient echo. It wasn't a sound, but a feeling, a memory transmitted directly into her mind. She saw fleeting images, an ancient civilization, incredibly advanced, that had reached the pinnacle of knowledge and power. They had discovered how to manipulate the very fabric of reality, how to absorb energy from other dimensions to sustain their existence. But they had gone too far. In their attempt to transcend all limits, they had inadvertently created a flaw in the very structure of the universe. A tear, a void where life energy was ceaselessly drained. The entity the Federation called the Life-Edrinker was not an independent conscious being. it was the consequence of that civilization's greed and ignorance. It was a cosmic wound, an imbalance they themselves had caused. Gareth, Lyra, and Xylos also perceived these memories. Though not as clearly as Alara, Gareth felt the ancient civilization's arrogance and its terrible consequences. Lyra felt the pain and regret of the beings who had created this tear. Xylos, however, saw broken energy equations, physical laws bent to the point of being unrecognizable. Alara realized that the Life-Drinker was not an enemy to destroy, but an imbalance to heal. It was a part of the universe, but a sick part. The architects had understood this, and that was why they had not fought it with force, but by guiding Alara on how to connect with the cosmic energy flow. In the center of the endless gyre, Alara saw a dark energy point, where everything seemed to be pulled in. That was the tear, the origin of the Life-Drinker. It wasn't malicious, it was simply doing what it was created to do, absorb. This is the wound, Alara said, her voice echoing in the empty space. It is not an enemy. It is an imbalance. We must heal it. She turned to her team. We will not fight it. We will fill it with life. We will guide the cosmic energy, the flow of existence, into this tear, so it can be healed. This was a mission more dangerous than anything they had ever done. If they failed, they could be completely absorbed by the Life-Drinker, becoming part of the void. But Alara knew this was the only way. They stood in a circle around the dark energy point. Alara was at the center. She closed her eyes, focusing all her will and energy. She connected with Gareth, with his strength of will, with Lyra, with her emotional harmony, with Xylos, with his understanding of energy structures. And most importantly, she connected with billions of other minds in the Galactic Federation, who were creating the conscious shield, who were sending their life energy to her. Alara began to guide a warm, radiant stream of energy from the universe itself, from the life of all matter, into the dark tear. It was not an attack, but a healing. It was like pouring water into a dry well, or light into a dark room. The Life-Drinker reacted. It tried to resist, tried to absorb the energy pouring into it. Alara felt a terrible pressure, as if the entire emptiness of the universe was trying to crush her. But she did not falter. She felt the support from her team, from the Federation, from the universe itself. Gradually, the dark energy point began to change. From absolute black, it began to emit a faint, weak glow. The emptiness began to fill. It was no longer a wound, it was becoming a new energy source. A point of balance. After what seemed like an eternity, Alara felt a sudden shift. The pressure vanished. The dark energy point now shone brightly. No longer a tear, but a small new star. A focal point of life energy and consciousness. The Life-Drinker, as a separate entity, was no more. It had been healed, integrated back into the flow of the universe. Alara opened her eyes, exhausted but filled with joy. She saw Gareth, Lyra, and Xylos also breathing sighs of relief. Their eyes filled with awe and relief. We did it, Alara whispered. We healed the wound. The mending of the abyssal vortex was not just a grand victory, it was a new beginning for the entire universe. Immediately after the Devourer was reintegrated into the energy flow, a warm, abundant wave of energy began to spread from the center of the abyssal vortex. Now no longer a consuming void but a new source of life. Planets that had been drained of life energy now began to show signs of recovery. Biospheres gradually returned, and hope blossomed throughout the galaxy. This success elevated Alara Vance and humanity to an unprecedented position within the Galactic Alliance. They were no longer merely allies but guides for a new era of exploration and understanding. The Galactic Alliance Council, under the leadership of Lord Valerius, officially declared this the Age of Connection. The Interstellar Sentient Energy Command, ISEMC, directed by Alara, became the Alliance's most crucial agency. Its goal was not just defense but also to promote understanding of sentient life energy and its application in all aspects of interstellar civilization. Gareth, as the Supreme Commander of the Psionic Guard Forces, oversaw the establishment of consciousness connection training centers on hundreds of planets. He developed a comprehensive curriculum, combining Khater discipline with Alara's meditation and energy focusing techniques. The result was a new generation of warriors, not only physically strong but also mentally resilient, capable of creating individual and collective psionic shields. Lyra, as the special envoy for cultural cohesion, led unprecedented diplomatic initiatives. She organized empathy conferences, where representatives of different species learned to connect and understand each other's emotions, resolving conflicts through empathy rather than sterile negotiation. Centuries-long tensions between species gradually dissolved. Xylos, with his Institute of Advanced Energy Research, achieved astonishing breakthroughs. His ECL devices could now not only detect life energy but also shape and guide it at a microscopic level. They began researching applications of sentient life energy in medicine, agriculture, and even space travel. The concept of life energy nurseries was proposed, where barren planets could be restored by channeling cosmic energy into them. Byte, Alara's robot assistant, had now evolved to a new level of artificial intelligence. It not only analyzed data but could also make intuitive judgments based on its enormous amount of information and its ability to simulate emotions. It became a true companion, with an understanding of the world far beyond its initial algorithms. Life within the Galactic Alliance gradually changed profoundly. Clean, infinite energy sources, generated from the redirection of cosmic energy, replaced nuclear power plants and polluting energy extraction stations. Medical technology reached new heights, with the ability to heal severe diseases by balancing the body's life energy. Even the concept of hyperspace travel began to be re-evaluated, with the potential to traverse vast distances by manipulating spacetime itself at a conscious level. Alara continued to study the energy scrolls from the Labyrinth Echo and the Whispering Echoes Nebula. She realized that mending the Devourer was just one of many mysteries left behind by the architects. They had not merely warned, they had prepared a map for successor civilizations to unlock the universe's infinite potential. One day, while reviewing new data from the Abyssal Vortex, now renamed the Cosmic Life Spring, Byte detected a strange signal. "Dr. Vance," Byte said, its optical display unusually flickering. "A form of energy I have never registered before. It is neither life energy nor the dark energy from the Devourer. It is a pure form of energy, beyond our measurement ranges." Alara approached the screen. The signal originated from an unexplored region at the center of the Milky Way, a legendary area known as the Galactic Soul, where ancient species believed the universe's greatest intelligences resided. "What is it, Byte?" Alara asked, her voice soft, full of curiosity. "The data indicates it is an invitation," Byte replied, "an invitation to an ancient council, who have observed the universe for a very long time. They are inviting you, Dr. Vance, and the Galactic Alliance to a meeting. It seems that our mending of the Devourer has opened a door they have been waiting for millions of years." The invitation from the Galactic Soul, to an ancient council that even the advanced Galactic Alliance had only heard of in legends, caused a wave of excitement mixed with apprehension. This was not just an opportunity to explore the universe more deeply but also an encounter with intelligences that might have observed existence since the formation of galaxies. Alara Vance, as the Director General of ISEMC, was officially tasked with leading the Alliance delegation. Lord Valerius personally attended the planning meeting, emphasizing the importance of the journey. "Dr. Vance," he said, his voice grave, "you have led us into a new era. Now, we may be guided by intelligences far beyond our concepts. Show respect, humility, and a willingness to learn." The delegation set off on the Genesis, a specially designed diplomatic and exploratory vessel, with a hull refined to withstand strange energy fields and communication systems upgraded to connect with the most ancient signals. Accompanying Alara was her familiar team, Gareth, Lyra, Xylos, and of course, Byte. Lord Valerius also decided to participate personally, underscoring the significance of this encounter. The journey to the Galactic Soul was unlike any previous voyage. The signal from the ancient council was not a set of coordinates, it was a direct invitation into consciousness. A guided path through the cosmic energy currents. The Genesis was led through brilliant galaxies, into the galactic center, where stars were so dense they formed a sea of light. Sensors are registering unprecedented energy fluctuations, Xylos reported, his eyes glued to the screen. "Nothing comparable in our database. These are pure energy constructs, beyond all conventional laws of physics." Gareth felt overwhelmed. The power of this place was not a power for combat, but the power of primordial existence. He felt tiny before this grandeur. Lyra felt a deep peace, a sense of belonging and an understanding beyond language. Finally, the Genesis entered the heart of the galactic soul. It was not a planet, a space station, or a nebula. It was a focal point of pure energy, a space enveloped by thousands, millions of swirling luminous energy strands, forming a living cosmic architecture. At the center of this architecture, floating gracefully, were pure light entities. This was the Ancient Council. These entities had no fixed form. They were multifaceted streams of light, vibrating at a frequency far beyond any material concept. As the Genesis entered this space, a voice, not of sound but of direct telepathic transmission, resonated in the minds of everyone on board. It was a calm, ancient voice, full of wisdom. "Welcome, children of light," the voice echoed. "Welcome, those who have mended the universe's wound. We are the Ancient Council, who have observed existence since the dawn of time." Alara stepped out of the Genesis with her team and Lord Valerius. Enveloped by the ship's protective energy field, she felt a deep connection with these light entities, a sense of shared origin. "We know of the Devourer," one of the light entities transmitted. "It was an imbalance created by a civilization that strayed. We have waited long for a civilization that could understand and mend it. You, humanity, have proven your uniqueness. You have combined logic and emotion, inner strength and unity, to heal a cosmic wound." Alara felt a torrent of knowledge flow into her mind from the light entities. She saw the true history of the universe, not a random sequence of events but a grand flow of energy. Guided by the most ancient intelligences, the architects were not the creators of the universe but those who had learned to work in harmony with this flow. The Devourer was just one of many imbalances that could occur. The universe is not merely matter and energy. Another entity transmitted. It is a living consciousness. Every galaxy, every star, every planet, every living being is part of that consciousness. Imbalance occurs when a part tries to separate from the flow, or tries to control it instead of harmonizing. The Ancient Council explained that their role was to preserve the universe's balance. They did not directly interfere with civilizations but merely observed and waited for those capable of finding their own path to harmony. "You, humanity, have found that path," another entity said. "Now, your responsibility, and that of the Galactic Alliance, is to become the new guardians of balance. To guide other civilizations in understanding sentient life energy, and to prepare for greater challenges to come." They revealed that the Devourer was merely a symptom of a larger problem. Other imbalances existed in the universe, and greater dangers awaited those who did not understand the true nature of life and connection. The flow of knowledge from the Ancient Council into Alara's mind seemed endless, transcending all limits of space and time. She not only understood, but also felt, the history of all things. From the first dust particles to the formation of supergalaxies, she understood that the architects she found in the labyrinth echo were just a small link in a chain of intelligences that had held sentient life energy knowledge. And they were the ones who tried to pass it on to civilizations with potential. The Ancient Council did not ask the Galactic Alliance to worship or submit. Instead, they entrusted a mission. "You, with humanity's uniqueness in combining emotion and reason, have opened the door to a new era," a light entity transmitted. "Your mission is to become the guides for this universe, to spread the knowledge of sentient life energy, to teach other species how to harmonize with the cosmic flow, and to heal other wounds that imbalance has created." They revealed that the Devourer was only one of many manifestations of separation from the cosmic flow. There were other areas in space where civilizations had pursued power or knowledge blindly, creating chaotic energy forms or distorted consciousnesses capable of harming life. These challenges could not be solved by force or pure technology but by deep understanding and healing at the most fundamental level. Lord Valerius, who had listened to the entire message silently and seriously, was the first to speak through the Genesis's telepathic transmission system. "Honored Ancient Council," he said, his voice filled with reverence. "We accept this mission. The Galactic Alliance will become the guardians of balance, the guides for other civilizations. We will learn and spread this knowledge." Alara, with her humility, felt the immense responsibility placed upon her shoulders. She was not alone. Gareth, Lyra, and Xylos, who had accompanied her through every challenge, were also ready. They were no longer just individuals representing their species, they had become a team united by a common purpose. Then let us begin. New guides. The ancient council transmitted. Your first mission is to the reflecting galaxy. There, another imbalance has developed. A civilization has tried to control the consciousness of others through technology, creating a distorted consciousness field that threatens to engulf all freedom and life. The ancient council provided no further details. They only transmitted a sense of the location and the nature of the problem, a form of imposing energy that was distorting the free will of living beings. After the historic meeting, the Genesis slowly withdrew from the galactic soul. Both Alara and the others felt a profound change within themselves. They no longer saw the universe as a collection of stars and planets but as a living network of consciousness, full of unexplored mysteries and potential. Returning to LYTOS 7 station, Alara convened the Galactic Alliance Council and reported on the meeting with the Ancient Council. The information about the existence of higher intelligences and the Alliance's new mission caused a wave of great debate. Some remained skeptical, but the evidence of the psionic shield and the recovery of the Dark System was too clear to refute. ISEMC was now not just a defense department but also a department of evangelism and healing. Alara began planning the trip to the reflecting galaxy. This would be an entirely new type of mission, not healing a physical wound, but liberating consciousness and healing the soul of a galaxy. Bite, Alara said to her robot, as they reviewed the map of the reflecting galaxy. Prepare all the information we have on the reflecting galaxy, especially reports of anomalies in psychic activity or strange energy fields. This will be an entirely different kind of battle. Bite's optics flickered, processing the command. Understood, Dr. Vance. Data models show a high imposing frequency emanating from the reflecting galaxy. This is a more complex problem than the Devourer, as it involves free will. NEP2.